There's a new face of Shonen Jump, and it isn't JJK. Right now, there's a bit of a lull in weekly Shonen Jump. The hype for One Piece isn't nearly what it used to be. My Hero's been hit or miss. And Black Clover, well, it's Black Clover. These were the top stories for a while, so to have them all in a state of meh-ness has sort of affected the overall reading experience. Add the fact that One Piece is however old, and MHA and Black Clover are like at least 7 years old, and it just feels like we need something new. So one would think that JJK or even Chainsaw Man would be the easy choice for the new face of Shonen Jump. But when I asked people what they think the best thing in all of Jump is right now, whether it be Weekly Shonen Jump, Jump Plus, or its other magazines, there was actually a bit of a split. Granted, there were a few honorable mentions like One Piece and Don to Don, but most of the replies were split between JJK and Undead Unluck. So it seems like these are the two series that fans are the most excited to read on Sundays. But are they really on equal terms, or is one of them actually better? Well, whether one is generally a better manga than the other is another discussion. But when you look at each manga right now, Undead Unluck is currently the best manga to be reading on a week-to-week basis. Which might sound odd at first considering JJK is the super serious manga, and Undead Unluck is pretty goofy looking, but they actually have a lot in common. They both have slow starts, they both have nuanced power systems, and naturally they both have great fights. Plus, while Undead Unluck might not be as edgy as JJK, it's probably the most exciting it's ever been. There's a few reasons why I personally think Undead Unluck is the best manga in Jump right now, but I'll share those in just a few minutes. What it really boils down to is the simple fact that Undead Unluck is just really fun to read. It's great to see how Fuko has grown as a character. She and the other characters have this amazing chemistry that makes for hilarious yet emotional dynamics, and the fights have been back-to-back bangers. Now, of course, if I'm going to say Undead Unluck has great fights, I have to acknowledge JJK. Because JJK is a series that has literally been accused of having so many great fights that it's just back-to-back hype. Kind of a weird criticism, but that's the truth. And while that is true for the series as a whole, that doesn't tell the whole story for the recent chapters. Obviously, Gojo is still fighting Sukuna. Granted, it had an insane opening, but between the lengthy explanations and constant string of gotcha moments between the two characters, this fight isn't that great on a weekly read. It seems like something that will flow much better when you can just binge the whole thing. If anything, I see people talking more about why one character or the other is a fraud, and less about how much they like the actual fight. So when JJK's biggest appeal is fights, and the only fight going on right now is kind of in a weird spot, it puts into question whether JJK is really the best manga to follow in Jump right now. But like I said before, I can easily give you 3 reasons why Undead Unluck has been nothing but fun to read every single chapter. Now, before I explain what those are, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. Now, the first reason I look forward to Undead Unluck every week is because it's just fun. It's genuinely fun to read. And I know this sounds like a dumb answer, but think about how many times you forced yourself to enjoy something, or you were into something so much that you actually forgot how to have fun with it. JJK is one of those series where you can definitely have fun, but it's easy to forget how. Especially now in a fight between two gods in a very technical fight where they just keep one-upping each other. It's definitely an exciting fight, but it's easy to get lost in the power scaling and all of the lengthy details. Undead Unluck also has a lot going on right now, but it also keeps the story simple and spontaneous. Without spoiling too much, this current part of the story starts with a time loop. Basically, our main character Fuko was sent back in time after the universe got a reset. So now she's got a big to-do list where she's rebuilding this big organization known as the Union and recruiting all of the other negators. This includes going to Russia and being attacked by a martial arts master, hopping into a Vietnam-era battle to steal a secret weapon, and boxing the heavyweight champion of the world. The boxing one sounds basic, but as a fighting fan, I loved this bit. It was crazy how this seemingly goofy fight quickly became one of the best in the entire series. Especially considering it's with a character that shows up for like 2 chapters in the beginning of the manga. Which brings me to my next point about why I love Undead Unluck right now. What this arc is particularly doing a great job of is rewarding readers. In other words, there is a ton of payoff for investing in these characters. And there's no better example of this than Void. Like I said, Void is a seemingly pointless character that only shows up for like 2 chapters. But then they bring him back and redeem him as one of the most badass characters. He gets a great new backstory in an intense fight that makes him one of the best characters in the story, when not long ago, he was one of its most forgettable characters. Turning to JJK, it definitely has payoff. We are seeing a lot of payoff for all of the build-up for Sukuna, but in terms of comparing it to Undead Unluck, it doesn't come close. All of the other characters are just standing around right now, and everything is just focused on Gojo and Sukuna, and all they're doing is fighting. And in that fighting, we still really haven't seen the true payoff yet. That's why this is one of the best things about Undead Unluck, because it takes the time to build its characters and present the best version of them to readers, so readers have a reason for every character to be their favorite character. This especially extends to Fuko, the third reason I love Undead Unluck so much. Prior to the time loop, Fuko was definitely a solid character, but after the time loop, she's forced to become the next leader of the Union, and she does this in a bunch of ways. First of all, she masters her unluck abilities, such as using an unluck gun whereby each bullet makes its target unlucky, potentially getting struck by meteors and more. And of course she masters her abilities well enough to take on the heavyweight champion, as well as the best martial artist in the world. And she also brings the best out of each of the other characters. She wants to rebuild the Union, and she already knows what its potential is. But in rebuilding the Union, she actually manages to make it better than it was before, recruiting allies and villains from the previous loop, as well as characters like Void that never made it into the final parts of the previous arc. I know a lot of people are saying Fuko is a great female character, but I think she's just a great character in general, plain and simple. And when you look at a manga like JJK, yes, it is exciting to follow Sukuna and Gojo right now, but our supposed main character is just on the sidelines. I don't want to say too much more on that because I already explained it to death in a full video, but basically it's kind of weird that Ouji is literally on the sidelines. It just makes his presence in the manga kind of awkward right now. Meanwhile, Fuko is driving every part of the story and she makes everything better. It's for that reason, and the payoff, and the pure fun of each chapter, that Undead Unluck is the best thing in Jump right now. JJK is hype, but sometimes it misses the small things that made it fun to read in the first place. Will this be forever? No, of course not. But at least right now, Undead Unluck is definitely the most fun manga to read in Jump. But maybe you disagree. How would you compare Undead Unluck and JJK right now? Which manga is currently the best in Weekly Shonen Jump? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. And if you'd like another discussion like this one, then make sure to check out my previous video on Undead Unluck. In that video, I dive deeper into the manga and explain what I love about Undead Unluck as a whole. I had a lot of fun making that with my editor Townzie, and it's still one of my favorite videos to this day. To find it, just click on the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.